don't ever carry a balance on your credit card
Right.
because we're talking about getting 4 or 5% back on our regular spending, but what are the APRs? What's the interest rate you see on credit cards, Daniel?
As high as they let 29.9, I don't know.
Yeah,
Eight.
20 to 30% right now, I think
Yeah.
is kind of average or normal.
Yeah.
So even with the sign up offer, if you're paying 20% in interest, you've already negated it.
Welcome to Finance for Physicians, the show where we help physicians like you use money as a tool to live a great life. I'm your host, Daniel Wren, and I've spent the last decade advising physicians on their personal finances, with the mission to help them understand that taking control of their finances now means creating a future where they can practice medicine where, when, and how long they want to.
Jeff, what's going on, man?
Oh, hey Daniel, it's good to see you again. It's always
Yep.
always a pleasure to talk finance and numbers and everything with you.
Well, especially when we're talking about a little bit of a shiny object for me today. Um, I I get these things in the mail every once in a while, or these little pop-ups when I'm logging into my some of my financial accounts, and sometimes they're very alluring, tempting to jump on. It's like, hey, Daniel, you're super special, and we want to offer you 1,000,000 points if you do these things, and 75 different benefits, and we'll give you back rubs at airports and concierge lounge, and and it's tempting, you know. In fact, I probably see one of those every couple weeks, maybe, and it's
Mhm.
tempting to jump on those. I bet you, hopefully, you guys listening know what I'm talking about at this point. We're going to be talking about those special offers from the wonderful credit card companies. And Jeff
Yes.
has become quite the expert on these.
Well, I'm a little bit at the beginning of a journey here with credit card points and miles, but yeah, it's something that has piqued my interest in the last 6 months or so quite a bit, and just started to try and sort out a little bit of the fact from fiction.
Right. The tricky part is it's there is potential value to be had. You know, there's a definite financial benefit to some of the offers that they're handing out, and the tricky part, though, at least for me, is in not going too all in on it and having 7,000 credit cards and overcomplicating my life. I remember, I know a guy, I used to go skiing with him, but he would have like 75 credit cards rolling at any given time. Literally, not a joke, like 75, like tons and tons. And he always talked about it all day long and every day. And so that's always my concern. I'm like, oh, I don't want to go too all in and have overcomplicating life and then temptations everywhere. And but it is tempting to take the teaser deal. I tend to not, but I'm curious what got you into it, because I've kind of stayed away from it myself. But
Yeah, I think really historically, I've kind of stayed away from it as well. Maybe a little bit of a bias there. Maybe my Dave Ramsey upbringing. I
oh
don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I think I might, and maybe I'm getting this quote wrong, but I'm pretty sure he references a study of millionaires and says not a single one of them said it was because of card points and miles.
Right.
And so it kind of just turned me off. So I'm like, yeah, you're not going to get rich with credit card points and miles. So what's the point of thinking about them? Um, But what kind of drew me back in is I made a terrible financial decision to go on a trip to Disney World with my family. So I might be working till I'm 95. We'll find out.
You can't put a price on a good time, Jeff.
Yeah, it's the most magical place on earth. Um, but at that point, I'm like, huh, you know what? I am spending a good amount of money on this trip, and maybe could I do better by really being travel focused with some of my spending or the cards
Mm,
there? And that started me down the road of credit card points and miles and looking at what's available there. It turns out for Disney, there's not a whole lot that's available if you actually want to go to stay at Disney.
mm.
So if that was what you were interested in, shut it down now. Um, but But it got me thinking that, pretty much every when I have a hard time saying every family or everyone I work with says something, but it's almost universal that when we're talking about things that our families that we work with in financial planning want to do, um, let me ask you, what percentage of families do you think individuals that you've worked with in the past have listed travel as a something they want to do more of, or a target they have, or a goal that they want to develop?
I think, yeah, it's huge. 100%. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say like 117%
Yeah,
say
I
that.
think usually you can look at the statistics economically. I think America has a very high, average income relative to the world. So I think the higher you get above like baseline economic standards, you start to spend on discretionary spending, and like travel is typically a huge line item for the average family as they start to have higher income that they spend more on. That's just kind of a pretty standard. And we see it in a individual basis, but it definitely plays out in the stats as well.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much everyone I talk to says I want to do more traveling.
Hmm.
And um, so I guess with that in mind, it had me thinking that, you know, we talk about all sorts of fun things. We talk about retirement planning, but that's for like, 55-year-old Daniel, 65-year-old Daniel, something like that. That's for future me and future you.
Yeah.
But travel is something that could happen all the time, right now, anytime, right?
Hmm.
And so just looking at, can what I'm spending be optimized to help my goals a little bit more, really piqued my interest and got me looking into a little bit further. And so
Hmm.
that's where I think, when done responsibly and with a plan, it can actually help, develop some of these goals a little bit, that and support things and provide some real dollar value
Hmm.
for the families that we work with.
What I found is when I get those teaser offers in the mail or whatever online, when I log into Amex, I'm an Amex guy, so
Mhm.
I log into my Amex and they throw out a new offer. And when I get them, I routine I go through is I usually am like, ooh, and then I start looking into it and I'm like, and research it a little more, and then it starts to get complicated, and I'm like, I don't know, and then I'm like, well, I'm not even sure. So I'm like 5 hours in. I'm like, I've spent way too much time on this, and then I throw it away. I'm like, that's my routine usually, and I've gotten less on the time spent on it. Normally, it's like get it in the mail. 5 minutes later, after opening it, I throw it away. And I'm like, I don't even want to. So, but I guess I've had a hard time making sense of all the stuff in a time efficient manner. There's a ton of stuff out there.
Oh yeah, I think that's where it comes down to, you can go down a deep rabbit hole, and it's a little scary,
Yeah.
the direction you can go with credit cards and points and miles. But there's a whole spectrum of ways to optimize the spending there so that you're getting a little bit more back, from very low effort to maybe this is something that you just love to do and you want to spend time on, and you can get some really amazing value.
Yeah.
But there's a spectrum, all from that almost no effort to this is my life
What if I
type
have
of effort.
limited time?
So with limited time, so I'd say there's kind of a couple of different options here for how you how you set up your credit card spending. And so that would be, one would be if you just wanted to get some cash back. And so let me put it this way: in credit cards, there are kind of two camps there, two different ways to go overall. One is cash back, and one is travel, team cash back. Um,
Like points?
yeah, so points, that's where you start to get into the little bit more effort, a little bit more reward, maybe a lot more reward, a lot more
Mm.
effort, type of that camp. But cash back's great too. So
Cashback's straightforward too. It's like percent, you spend, you get money.
very straightforward. So yeah, you spend, you get a percentage of that back, usually with a cash back credit card. And so the nice part there is there is really almost no effort on your part other than if you need to organize your credit card set up so that you're getting a nice percentage back on the different categories that you would spend on.
Mm.
But once you get cash back, you can use that for anything, right? Which is great because it doesn't have to be for travel. You can put it in a bank account, you can invest it, you can pay down your student debt, you can do a lot of things with that. Um, but yeah, so maximum flexibility there, and really not a whole lot of effort when you're looking at cash back other than getting the setup right for you and then getting cash back. The nice part about cash back too, or any of these credit card rewards, is um, they're not taxable. They're considered rebates of stuff you've already spent.
Consult your accountant for advice on that one. But
Yeah, always do that. But the way that they're categorized is it's a rebate of your spending, and so
yeah,
um, that compared to earning that cash back, you're just saving on what you're spending instead. Is kind of that idea.
right. That definitely adds a little extra perk. So like if I'm thinking about, well, cashback sounds good. I want to go simple. What's competitive? Like how do if let's just say I've not explored this very much, and I'm like, oh, you've kind of captured my interest in that because I think some people think of it like I gotta be the guy that I was just referring to with the 75 credit cards. It's like all in on it,
Mm-hmm.
or I do nothing. And that's kind of how I've thought of it. It's like I either go all in on it and I'm like a credit card junkie, or I'm like doing nothing and I just keep the same card for forever. So like if I'm in the camp of I've kept the same credit card forever and never paid attention to it, like what's a competitive, you know, measure of how you're doing in terms of maybe start with cash back.
Yeah, I'd say at a minimum, you're going to want to see 2% cash back for a credit card. And there are a lot of options out there for 2% where just anything you spend on, you get 2% back.
Yeah,
Um,
so I know a lot of them don't offer 2%. Like a
yeah,
lot
there's a
of them
lot that don't.
a lot of them will be like 1%, or they'll say 2% up to X dollars, and then they'll do 1% or 1.5 or whatever. I do know, like one of the ones I know that has like unlimited 2% is I think Fidelity still maybe has that. Fidelity's always been one that I believe has the 2% unlimited. So it's just like super simple, straightforward. 2% cash back, unlimited. I think there's another one from, is there another Capital One or?
Yeah, so you're right. Fidelity has a 2% cash back one. Capital One has so they have their venture cards that are 2% on
Is
everything.
it unlimited?
It is unlimited. It's actually on the points and miles side of the equation, but
But it could be used for 2% cash, right?
uh, in many cases, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where else? City has a what's it called? The double cash. So
Yeah.
you get 1%, I think, when you spend it, and 1% when you pay the bill, like so for
Right.
2%
Oh yeah, I've
total.
seen them.
Um, and there are several other options there for just a basic 2%. You don't even have to think about it. If that was the only card you used, you'd get 2% cash back on everything that you spend on.
Right. So if you look at your credit card and you see you're getting, say you spend $100,000 a year, you want to be getting $2,000 of cash back at least. And I mean, if you're getting 1,700 a year, then it's like, well, is it really worth $300 to, you know, get another card? And that's kind of a super simple way to look at it. But now, if you're spending $1 million a year, obviously the numbers are bigger. 2% of a million's, you know, 20,000 a year instead of 2,000 a year.
Oh yeah, to your point, a lot of those cards don't have an annual fee. We didn't even talk about
Right, right,
fees on
right.
them, but um,
Yeah, usually the
Capital One
cashback
probably
ones
does.
don't, which helps.
Yeah. But then beyond that, you might have some specialty type cards that are in a bit more in
Hmm.
different categories. And so you can set that up a lot of times. Like with Dan, you said you're an Amex guy. You love
Yeah,
Amex.
that's
So
just I have Amexes. That's
you've got like with Amex, you've got the gold card. That's 4% back on dining and groceries. Well, I'm sorry. So it's 4 points per dollar spent on dining and groceries. They don't have as easy of a cash back function, but there are other ones. Capital One has the Savor card that is Savor as in like, oh, it tastes so good, which has 3% back, I believe it is on groceries and dining. So you can start to get a little bit back more cash wise on some of those categories that you also tend to spend more money on. I don't know about your family, but we spend a lot on groceries.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Well, so cashback's the simplest, straightforward approach, and you can just get a flat percentage, or cashback can get a little complicated where they have like rotational categories, and it's
Yeah.
like pick your category or not.
You can get more complicated and less complicated on any variation of these. But I'd say, yeah, there are some, I think, and I feel like an advertisement for a lot of banks today. But Citi has one called the Custom Cash, where it's 5% on your top spending category of the month. So most people in the points and miles or cash back game would say, take that card and use it for one thing. Like, I know my Custom Cash is for gas. So that way you're always getting 5% back on gas, something like that. But yeah, cash back, really easy, really, really flexible. So.
Yep. And 2% is a good kind of baseline. Ideally, everybody's getting at least 2% because you can get 2% from one card with unlimited. And so, that's as simple as you can get.
Exactly. So you could do one credit card and get some money back.
Let's take a quick break to talk about our firm, Renda Financial Planning. The goal of our podcast is to empower you to make better financial decisions. But sometimes the best financial decision you can make is to work with someone who understands your financial goals and has the expertise to keep you on track to reach them. That's where Renda Financial Planning comes in. We are a full-service financial planning firm that works with over 400 physicians and their families across the country. We charge a transparent monthly flat fee for our services and offer virtual meetings you can take from anywhere. Best of all, you'll get to work with a team that specializes in working with physician families. So whether you're starting out and wondering how you'll balance your student loan payments and saving for a home, or you are an established physician trying to figure out how to pay for your kids' college and how much you need to save to reach financial freedom, we can help. I'll put a link in the show notes to schedule a no-obligation meeting with one of our certified financial planners. Ren Financial Planning, LLC is a registered investment advisor. For more information about our firm, please visit renfinancial.com. That's WRENNE financial.com.
Now it gets more complicated when we start talking about the points or the vacation category. Rewards. I don't know what to call them. Some people call them points, some call them rewards, credits, whatever. It's non-cashback rewards, we'll call it.
Yeah. So I think the way to think about that is it's a currency of a bank. So it's not a dollar, it's not a cent, it's a point or it's a mile.
Bucks.
It's its
like
own
Malibu Jacks bucks. We have Malibu Jacks, and like that's where my kids like to go. It's like that's not a good conversion rate. You earn the tickets and the points, and then you get to go buy the cheapo plastic gift at the end or prize at the end. That's a bad conversion rate.
Yes, but I think kind of the next level of getting value from your credit card points or miles would be most of those big banks, so Chase and Capital One and Citi and Amex have a travel portal that you can spend your points in. And depending on that credit card issuer, you might get a bonus for using your points in their portal. So Chase, for example, if you have one of their Sapphire travel cards, so there's a couple of them there, but you could get a 50% bonus using your points as a cent. So 1 point, instead of being worth 1 cent, like it would be on a cash back card, is now worth 1.5. And so you get, 50% more value if you're using that money for travel, those points for travel. And so maybe just to give you an idea, so maybe this is backtracking or forward tracking, but I did a kind of cursory look at different families that I work with. And on average, there was kind of this lifestyle spending that would be generally credit card spending of about $150,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's just say that you can get, 3 points back on that per dollar. Probably a good average if you have a couple of credit cards and you're maximizing your spending on groceries in one and everything else on
Three
another, something like that.
points,
Yes, three
not
points. So
dollars, not 3 percentage points, but 3 reward points.
yeah, I think that's a good way to start thinking about it, though, is it'd be 3% of what you spent, 3 points
Mm-hmm.
per dollar. So instead of it being worth 3 cents, now each one's now it's 4.5 cents per dollar if you're spending in the portal. And so that can be a nice flexible option. Again, if your target is more travel, because you just go to let's say you go to the Chase portal, you say, I want to get a flight from Canton, Ohio to Flagstaff, Arizona. It comes up just like it's kind of Google Flights or something like that. You can see all the options for booking, and you just book the flight that you want. And every 1 cent that you had is now worth 1.5 cents for that flight. So it keeps things pretty flexible on the travel side, where whatever your plan is, it just kind of amplifies the value of those points for you. So um, instead of it being $4,500 worth, if it was 1 cent per point, you'd be getting almost $7,000 worth of value for travel if you were booking it through the portal. And that's another kind of easy way to do this if you just want to. And it's a good option if your schedule's tough, if you can't change your dates, if you can't change your destination, you know exactly what you want to do. That gives you an option.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another way to use those points and get some extra value out of it. That's it's several $1,000s for the normal family we work with each year.
So so do you think you're saying if you're using the points route, like 3% is a good target instead of, so we were talking about cash rewards. Let's just
Mhm.
use cash equivalent. You're saying if I'm using points instead, maybe 3% would probably be a good like baseline minimum target to expect if I've got 1 or 2 cards, 3 or 4 cards. Is that
Yeah, I
correct?
would say try to, and that's where you start to optimize your spending with your cards a little bit. You can do that probably with 2 or 3 credit cards to kind of inch up towards that 3 cents per point or higher type level instead of that baseline of two. You could definitely get two, easy peasy. So,
Yeah.
uh, but I'd say three is a realistic type of target for getting on your spending on average.
Yeah.
If you have just a couple of options there.
Yeah. And then it gets really interesting when you start getting into the high annual fee cards because they
Yes,
have all
and
these extra perks.
yeah, yeah, and so that's where some of these are integrated with one another. So to use that travel portal, usually you'll need one of those cards that gives you access to it or something like that. Um, or for that benefit of 50% more, you need the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, which does have a $550 annual fee right now. So that sounds kind of high. That definitely was sticker shock to me looking at
Yeah,
annual
but unless
fees.
they give you $550 right back, which they kind of do.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that one,
They give you a
uh,
travel credit, right?
yeah,
Like
they give you a
straight up.
three. Yeah, Chase does a $300 travel credit, which
You
is
can
not
use
just for
on
their portal. Like just any
any
spending that
travel
codes as
spending.
travel, it reimburses. So you're down to 250 there. And then if you have that extra value from the points, great. It also covers some things like TSA pre-check or global entry, which that'll save you $100 every 4 years or something like that. It's not the biggest benefit. It's not the smallest one.
Yeah.
But then a lot of them will also have something like lounge access. Uh, so Chase has their Sapphire lounges, and Amex has the Centurion lounges, and um, Capital One has their lounges too. So, um, and then there's some more generic ones. So, if you put a value on that, maybe maybe it does save you $50 on food every time you go through the airport.
Hmm.
You know, because food, drinks, things like that are included in the lounges, and maybe get a little bit of a quiet spot if you have to go through there. In fact,
Hmm.
we on our Disney trip we did we had a flight delayed and got to spend some quality time in the Centurion Lounge in the family room watching Paw Patrol. So
Ah,
something
yeah.
that might not have happened outside
Where
in
was
the
it? Which
terminal.
airport?
That was in Charlotte.
Charlotte. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those lounges are nice. I would say I don't know about kids. I've never had kids in the lounge.
Yeah. So that was helpful
Yeah.
for us in that situation. Uh, but the point being, you might have to have one of those travel cards to access some of the portals. It depends on
Mhm.
the bank. Some require it, some don't.
Mhm.
Uh, but the travel portal is another way where if you're focused on, like, if you said, "Hey, I want to develop my travel goal. I wanted to spend more, do more with my dollars." That's another way to be pretty flexible. Use those
Yeah.
points and just spend them to do what you wanted to do.
Hmm.
And then going down the rabbit hole, there was one more that this is the one that takes a lot more effort and flexibility, but can possibly return a lot of value. And that would be all of these banks. So, in addition to using their travel portal, also have relationships, transfer partners.
Yeah.
So, like Chase and Hyatt hotels, you can transfer your points from Chase and think of it like a currency conversion
Yeah.
into Hyatt points, and then use the Hyatt points for Hyatt stays, which Um, that's a classic example right now of one that gets usually at least around 3 cents per point of what you've transferred. So you start to get into higher value dollars there, using those transfer partners. But it requires doing a lot of research, usually looking at availability. Maybe you change your plans around when the dates are available for things, or the award availability is there. And so that's where it depends for our families that we work with. Is that something that would even work for you? Because if you have, I have to go on this trip on spring break, March 21st to the 28th, 2025, something like that, you don't have as much flexibility as if
Hmm.
you're like, yeah, I'd like to go to Europe sometime in the summer of 2026. It doesn't matter where in Europe, there are a lot of places we could go. Um, that's where you can start searching for these awards and get some pretty outsized value potentially.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just to give you an idea of what that might look like, would be you could fly a business class lie flat seat from the US to Europe, and um, if you're points for like on $150,000 of spending, that might cover 4 people doing that. And so
150,000 points.
that would be
150,000 of spending, I mean.
of spending. So if you're a person that you're kind of on average spending maybe that $10,000-$12,000 a month on credit cards, and that's not abnormal for
Hmm.
the families that you might see. Um, that then becomes worth $25,000 of what you would pay for in cash, or um,
That's if you're working it.
but that is if you're working it, yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right. So if I'm really like looking at this without getting too much in the weeds, you got say 2% is a minimum if I'm just getting a card and keeping it and minimum
mhm.
effort. And then maybe 2 to 4% if I'm just kind of doing a little bit of strategic, maybe a couple cards or whatever, based on my spending. And then if I'm really, really working it, what
Mhm.
is that? 20,000 on 150. I don't know what percentage that is. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's getting up there. So
It's like 13%. Yeah. So that's
yeah.
that's getting that's now working it, but also limited, very, very limited flexibility. You have to kind of like most people travel on their time, like they pick the date and then they structure it. Whereas this strategy Jeff's talking about, it's like you watched the deals and then pick the travel. It's a different approach. I'm assuming that's
Mhm.
kind of the strategy you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I'd say it takes a little bit more flexibility either in the location that you want to go to. or
Right.
the dates you want to go.
And most
So,
people, at least I know,
mhm.
have very little of date and location flexibility. When they, at least when they approach travel, they tend to be like, I got these dates and I'm going there first, and then they go and plan it. So if this kind of that high dollar value benefit is gonna kind of put the kibosh on that. We
But
didn't
yeah,
even
if you're
talk
like,
about welcome bonuses. That's another
oh
thing.
yeah,
That's where you really get, if you like my buddy that I was talking about, that had 75 cards, he would swap cards. And so you get, there's only, I mean, you, I guess, run out at some point, but like when you switch to different cards, you can get these welcome bonuses. And that's like the teaser deals that 100,000 points if you spend 5,000 in the first 3 months or whatever.
Mhm. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think for many of us, simplicity is important, and so you can get a decent amount of points coming just from your regular spending with having one or two credit cards that hit that 2 to 4
Mhm.
percent kind of range. But yeah, sign up bonuses are much larger, where that could be worth. You just the example you just gave is one that's current right now, where Chase is doing 100,000 points for $5,000 a spend on their one of their the Sapphire cards. Um, which if anybody's looking, that's a pretty good offer. Um, but that just at the 1 cent per point type of value, that's 20% back on what you were spending already. So if you spent that
What if
$5,000,
it's one? So that'd be 30% on 1.5.
yeah, so it'd be 30% on 1.5. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it adds up pretty fast on those welcome offers.
Mm.
If you're however using the points, so that Sapphire preferred one I was just referencing, it has the travel portal with a 25% bonus to your points. So right off the bat, that's worth $1,250 to you
Mm.
if you used it for travel through Chase. So um, that's a pretty good return on what you're spending.
Not bad.
And so that's where if you're signing up for those bonuses, that certainly can accelerate how many points you get and really kind of supercharge
Mhm.
how you use that option or how you use your points.
Yeah. Now
And then,
we gotta before we start to wrap up, we gotta throw out the disclaimers or the consi- really it comes down to your situation super important. Like I've recommended strongly against getting any credit cards for certain situations, and then other cases this strategy makes a lot of sense. So there's a few key things you gotta really I guess you gotta have an order first before you even consider this type of stuff.
oh yeah, I think there are kind of some unwritten rules or just baseline assumptions to get any value out of all of this. And I mean, the first one is probably the biggest one is don't ever carry a balance on your credit card
Right.
because we're talking about getting 4 or 5% back on our regular spending, but what are the APRs? What's the interest rate you see on credit cards, Daniel?
As high as they let 29.9, I don't know.
Yeah,
Eight.
20 to 30% right now, I think
Yeah.
is kind of average or normal.
Yeah.
So even with the sign up offer, if you're paying 20% in interest, you've already negated it.
And
So,
I would say I would go even further and say I wouldn't even consider this strategy, or when I say this strategy, I wouldn't even consider having more than just one credit card, or even maybe using your credit cards too aggressively if you don't have an emergency fund. Like if you don't have a buffer of cash, because that's really just like covering, like short-term unexpected. And because if you don't have that, you're going to have to probably go into credit card debt. And
mhm.
so credit card debt pretty much ruins this whole strategy, no matter what strategy you're using. It just totally ruins it.
Yeah. Or if you really have to use the credit cards, and you have no emergency fund, do the cashback option, start building that emergency fund.
Yeah, there you go.
uh,
Yeah,
uh,
that's a good idea. Fidelity has a great program for if you're struggling to save, they will put it into your brokerage account or your 529, which I love. if, especially like I said, if you're struggling, if you're focused on saving and investing, or you're struggling to, that's just a nice, super simple, automatic program that they do, and it's 2% unlimited.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's the biggest one is we are operating under the assumption that you're always paying off your credit cards. So we don't carry a balance on those, or else the points are worth, well, they're still worth something, but they're not outweighing the fees for sure.
And the stress of the credit cards too. Credit card debt is super stressful.
Yeah. And for the most part, you know, the families we're working with, they're paying their balances off. That's not the biggest issue. Some people have some credit card debt, and it's something we're working on too. Um, but that's kind of table stakes for this. I think the next one is probably the biggest pitfall that is likely to occur with the families we work with, that they're paying off their balance, but you mentioned, I think, the very beginning of this episode, you said shiny object, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if any of us are totally immune to shiny objects, but you said there's the sign up bonuses, they're amazing, but there's this temptation to spend more than you normally would just to earn the points.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do here is not spend more just to spend more and get more points, but it's to optimize what we're already spending in a way that we get more value out of it. But particularly if you see like, oh, there's the sign up bonus, I can get 250,000 Amex points if I only spend $20,000 in the next 3 months. Like,
yeah, we were thinking about that trip. Well, why don't we just go ahead and do it? And
yeah, thinking about the trip maybe, or like, man, now I gotta think of a way to spend this. Maybe it falls into your normal spending. Daniel and I were talking about, we both have HVAC stuff going on. Like, so just replaced a furnace and an air conditioner.
yeah,
That was a really good opportunity to get a sign up bonus on spending a good amount of money. So,
did your HVAC guy take credit cards? Mine doesn't.
Oh, they did. And well, so they also had a fee for using the credit card.
Oh, that's another complicating factor.
It is. So you got to do the math, make sure the math works out for you. But again, this was a sign up offer. So it was like 40% of your spend you got back in points. So like it was a no brainer to pay 3% to get 37%. Whatever. In my mind. So, but yeah, that's the thing. Just beware of the temptation to spend more to earn those points, because you could just spend and buy the trip too. You don't have to earn the points to buy the trip. Optimize what you're already doing. And I think the one other thing just to watch out for is just keeping different cards around. Some of these cards have a annual fee. Some of them are large, some of them are small. Larger being almost $700, smaller being maybe $95 a year, something like that. But do the math, kind of pay attention to how it works out for you, and if you're getting value out of the card that exceeds the fees. There are lots of different things that go into that, and we've just barely scratched the surface today. But don't keep a card around just because it feels cool.
Yeah, you got to track it. That's the thing. It's just a matter of, do you want to put in a little bit more effort to get a little bit more benefit out of this? It's because you shouldn't just do it just to get the deal. You gotta do it right, which means you gotta do a little research, track it over time. And so if you're not willing to do that, then the simple approach is not. That's kind of, like I said, that's the route I've taken, or I've gravitated towards. That is like the simple approach, because I don't really want to go that route. Jeff's taken a little bit more towards the strategic approach, but he knows he's tracking these things over time, and so you can keep kind of a pulse on it and make sure it's still benefiting you. There's not really it's like a lot of this stuff, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just a matter of. And so if you're working with, one other thing I'll throw out, if you're working with us and you're listening to this, feel free to reach out, because the nice thing about it is, if we're working with people one-on-one, we can go in there and look at your spending and be like, oh yeah, here's some things you might think about changing. Just let us, and we just need to know confirm which credit card you're currently using, and then look at your spending, and then we can kind of give you some ideas of potential strategies, based on how much change or how much you want to get into the credit card game. Any other parting thoughts, Jeff, on takeaways or resources or?
Oh, well, you just mentioned if they're working with us, which is a very small percentage of who we're talking to right now, probably.
Yeah.
There are lots of resources out there. You can go down a rabbit hole here, but there are good podcasts out there that are dedicated to this topic.
Yeah.
And there's even a website out there. I'll call this one out by name. No affiliation. Do all your own due diligence here, but it's called Rich with Points.
What is it?
You can
Say that again.
It's Rich with Points.
Yeah.
The guy's name is Rich, and he talks about points. So there you go. If you ever worked with me, you might tell why I like him. He's kind of maybe a little similar to me. But he put together a website where basically has all the different credit cards that are out there. You can put in your budget, like what I spend on groceries, what I spend on travel and gas, and then start to compare different credit cards if you're getting cash back or the portal or using it for travel, and say, what's the best setup for me, and just kind of compare that. So that's a really fun tool if you wanted to do it on your own. But yeah, so right now that's a fun resource that I've been playing around with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That you just got to have the resources and do a little homework on it. That's what I found is there's a lot of different resources out there. You just got to go out there and find them and plug in the numbers and do the spreadsheets and make sure you're tracking it over time, or just simplify it and toss out the deals, put the blinders on, because those shiny objects will sometimes get you.
Oh yeah. Well, thanks for taking me down the rabbit hole here, talking about all these shiny objects.
Well, unfortunately, you've gotten me, or maybe fortunately, you've gotten me a little more curious about credit cards again. So I'm gonna go check out that website. I'm curious about. I haven't been on it, so maybe we'll chat again on credit cards.
All right, I'm looking forward to it.
I appreciate it, Jeff.
All right, have a good one, Daniel.
No guests or clients appearing on the podcast received any form of compensation for their appearance and obtained no other benefit from us. It should not be assumed that every client has had the same experience.